There's a lot of hooking up going on in college, and actually, according to her campus, 57% of college women say they're sexually active, but 68% of college women say they've never been tested for STDs and STIs. And this is a really important issue to address because a lot of people don't get tested, and I think that's really something important for us to talk about. And you guys feel free to leave your questions and comments, whatever, down below for us. It is really important to get tested for STDs. So here's, the why, how, where, all that sort of stuff. So why should you get tested? Actually, by age 25, half of sexually active people will test positive for some sort of STD. And you can be a carrier for an STD without having any symptoms of an STD. So just because you're like, well, everything seems like it's going on fine down there, I don't think I need to get tested.
There's no discharge.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have an STD. If you've slept with multiple people, there's a really good chance that there's a 50% chance that you have an STD. And so that health risk in itself should be enough to motivate you to get to the doctor, get tested. And I know, I think a lot of the reasons that people kind of don't get tested is because it's embarrassing. But just kind of
it's not embarrassing though. You're never going to see the doctor again.
No, exactly. And the doctors have seen a lot worse. Trust me. Whatever you have, they've seen worse.
Something far bumpier than what you've got.
Yeah. So kind of try to shrug that off and keep your long-term health in mind, because if you do have an STD that goes unchecked, it can lead to some really serious consequences like pelvic inflammatory disease. If you have HPV, it can lead to cervical cancer. A lot of STDs can lead to infertility if you don't get them treated right away.
Some can be passed on to your child.
Right, yeah, and obviously to your future sexual partners.
Exactly.
And talk about embarrassing. Better to get tested and get rid of it than to get a phone call from somebody that's like, hey, I did get tested. You're the last person I slept with, and congratulations, you gave me gonorrhea. That would be worse.
Or to have to make that phone call.
Yeah.
Oh, let me contact the people that I've hooked up with in the last 3 months. That's a fun day.
So another common kind of stereotype here is, well, I'm using condoms. Isn't that enough? Doesn't that mean that I don't have to get tested? Well, no, not really, because condoms are not 100% effective, especially if you're not using them, exactly in the correct way. And, just vaginal intercourse is not the only way that STDs and STIs can be passed along. You can get it from foreplay, from oral sex, from even just touching an infected area. It can still pass along an STD. And I think when it comes to HPV, condoms are actually only 70% effective because it's carried in the skin around, where the condom doesn't cover.
Herpes can do that too.
Yeah, so it is really important. That doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're using a condom, you're totally safe. And one other thing this article points out along the condom line is have an open and honest conversation with someone, ideally before you have sex with them and not after. Because, look, this is, obviously you're in the moment, you don't really want to be hold on, do you have any STDs? Let's talk about this. But this is the rest of your life. You could get HIV. Granted, that's an extreme case scenario, but you do really need to weigh your own health risks here. Yeah,
or you can get herpes, which is not as an extreme case,
but still lasts for your life.
Exactly.
Still is not treatable. So where and how often do you get tested for STDs? One scenario that people might not want to get tested because of is well, I don't want to go get tested and have that show up on my parents' health insurance plan that I got an STD test. Well, a lot of college campuses will offer, free or very low-cost STD tests. You can go to Planned Parenthood without having to put it on your insurance. If that's something that you're worried about, I don't know. Some people might be
Yeah, I could totally understand some people having a problem with that.
And just, call around, find a doctor that you're comfortable with, decide if you care if it's a male or a female doctor, whether you're a male or a female, if that's something that's going to bother you at all. If you're a girl, you can get a lot of STD tests right along with your pap smear. So they suggest, doing that annually if you are sleeping with multiple people within that last year. If you're a guy, obviously you're not going in to get a pap smear, but, still do that annually. And
yeah, my doctor looked at me really weird when I asked for that.
And if you feel, like you need one, go more than once a year. If you've had sex with a few people, you should probably honestly be going every time you have a new sexual partner. You should also be getting tested for STDs.
Yeah, and it's probably at no point in your life will it be easier to get one than when you're on campus. A lot of times you can just go to the infirmary or something like that. And yeah, it's a really awkward half hour while you're sitting there for the results of your HIV test. But man, does it feel good when you come back clean. Woo! Rolled the dice, came up snake eyes, I guess. Or snake eyes is bad. I don't know. Anyway, but you're clean, that'll feel good. And if you're not clean, at the very least you found out before you went and hooked up with someone else. So great information coming from hercampus.com. This is a story that Lisa selected, and I think it's an important thing for people to think about, particularly when you're new to college and this isn't something you've had to deal with.
Keep your health in mind.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing. Everything else should fall second.